Buenas noches, Miami, to a brand new episode of Fast Break. As always, I got with me the voice of the Godfather, Clutch. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up, man?
Oh, good, good. And back, one of the original goons. We got Neal Cordero, all the way from Texas,
Good to be
baby.
back, man. Good to be back.
Yeah. Oh man. Right off the bat. Well, we got obviously the Heater playing right now. I haven't been able to see it much. Neil has a live feed going there with his O'Neal jersey. I put him up. Put him up there. We see them right there. There we go, hyping up the crowd. First and foremost, Neil, since we haven't talked to you in a while. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I got Senior Socks. Buenas noches, Chicago. You see? Semi turtleneck is back. Did it for you, this Senior Sock. Cool man from Chicago looking at us here. I mean, we still got to avenge opening night loss, so we'll talk later in the season. But Neil, since you've been, we haven't had you on in a while. What is your take so far on the start to this Heat season?
You know, I don't want to overreact to it. There are some things that we thought. There's some players that we thought we would have at the beginning of the season that we don't have. This obviously isn't our full team. The way that they battled back last night, I know we'll probably talk about that, was really encouraging for me. I think that kind of solidifies my belief that it's not time to overreact on the team. Do I wish they would have started better and looked better in the first few games? Sure. But I think I finally see them figuring something out, and which I know we'll get to later. But yeah, I mean, if you look across the league, a lot of the teams that you would label contenders are struggling. I mean, it's not like Golden State's record is that much better than ours, And I mean, does anybody think that they're a bad team right now? No. Also, look at the Clippers and what they're dealing with. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be fine, and we'll just see, if we can get some players back and team gets healthier. Let's see how it goes.
Man, I know, and you hit the point. Actually, the Warriors, we have the same record. They were 2-5. We beat them yesterday, so they're 3-5 now. They were 3-4. They're 3-5 now, same as us. And like you mentioned, right now is where teams are finding out who they really are. A lot of people in Miami, obviously, and I'll get to Clutch on this one. A lot of Miami Twitter, especially Heat Twitter, Dolphins Twitter, is like read and react. It's instant gratification, and people. The Goto story. Oh, we're running it back, guys. Oh, yeah, we ran back the same team. You see? We suck. We lost P.J. Tucker. We only lost P.J. Tucker, guys. We have players on new rows. Let's figure it out. Just give it time. Be patient. There's no time. There's no need to panic right now. Are there holes on the team? Yes, we all see them. But there's also styles of play. Spo is figuring out rotations. And I'm going to kick it to you, Clutch, because you mentioned when I say rotations from the beginning, I didn't understand why Duncan Robinson was not averaging 20 to 25 minutes a night. I believe he opens up so many things for this team. Just people gravitating towards him, creating. What is your take? What you've seen, Clutch, so far, that yesterday, I'm not saying yesterday erases everything, but what do you see progressions now coming from what you saw yesterday?
I mean, one thing that Spo has pretty much learned is to surrender.
I still laugh every time I see your Pirelli picture.
Beautiful, handsome man.
My apologies. Go.
Yeah, so one thing like Spo has learned, evidently, is that he has to surround Jimmy and Bam with shooters. He has to. Because there was this point in the third quarter, I want to say fourth quarter, it was Jimmy, Bam, and just Strus, Duncan. The ball was moving, bam, like all the way over the 3-point arc. They're moving left to right till they found the open shot, and they always got the open shot because Strus and Duncan command so much attention that if they're not covering them, they're gonna make the three. If they're covering them, you got Jimmy and Bam eating inside the paint in the mid-range area. That's like the biggest change that I've seen Spo makes early in the season.
And Jim, I'm gonna reach out. Jim, thank you for listening. Appreciate it. No, this is not the only shirt I have. I wore because Senior Socks asked for it, so it's a treat to him over there in Chicago. But to piggyback what you just said, Clutch, when you have a formula and you're kind of still figuring out, obviously, Omer's situation, he should be coming back soon. Oladipo is another case. It might be a long-term situation with him. They're just being very cautious, or something serious that they're not going to. Obviously, the Heat are very tight-lipped with these situations, especially players' injuries and all that. But you kind of see the rotation taking form and even people adapting to play with the heroes and the bands. The only concern that I have is a starting unit. I still don't see a fit, a perfect fit, a perfect symbiotic fit with Caleb Martin and Jimmy Butler. Because I feel that if you have Jimmy Butler starting and you surround me with Robinson or Strus in place of Martin, and there's the famous Jimmy at the 4, throughout the course of the game, Jimmy plays the 4. I want to say maybe 20, 25 minutes out of his 37 minutes. So the problem is disguise in zones or off switches. So it just creates so much breathing room for the offense to operate with Bam and Hero to start off games the right way. Because either way, as soon as you get into your sub patterns and your rotations, you're going to have the influx of Vincent coming in with Martin. You take Hero out, maybe you give Lowry a rest, and then you bring in Robinson. You bring in Strus if he doesn't start, vice versa. And you always have a mesh of players intertwining as they sub in and sub out. I just feel that it will create spacing for your offense. Bam. People talk about Jimmy. Bam exploded when he had Robinson and Strus next to him yesterday. So I just feel that is something that we're going to see. Obviously, Jimmy being out today, it's the Kings. I know they're missing De'Aaron Fox. So Jimmy being out today, you're going to see Spo experiment. We might see a little bit of Jovic. And if you're going to stash Kane, Jovic in the D League so they can get extra playing time, which I think is great because it prepares them possibly for playing time. It prepares them in case of any injuries. You have to have your solid rotation where Highsmith, I don't think Highsmith is going to see the floor anytime soon unless it's emergency minutes. He's kind of played himself out. Drew Smith is going to be sent to the D League as well, get more playing time. So you're probably thinking this is the core, bearing any trades. This is the core that you're playing with, mixing in Omer, keeping Dedmon fresh, which actually could be a pleasant thing. We just saw how Dedmon played after having 2 games off. So you can have a backup by committee or flow of games. You have foul trouble, things of that nature. So we're getting there. You're kind of seeing more of getting us to an identity. And that's why when Jimmy Butler, that to me right here, when people start panicking and Jimmy Butler flats out comes out and says, we're winning the fucking championship, like that hits you. Because you know what they're doing. You know what they want. Remember, this is early season. Spo, early in the season, always. There's been some Heat seasons that have been very successful that started very slow. And we hit our stride. We hit our rotation. It just clicks. Even Hero going out yesterday kind of opens up Pandora's box. And you see the chemistry with Strus, with Robinson, with Bam and Butler in crunch time. So there are blessings here behind. In certain situations, there's always something that can pop up for you guys. I'm gonna kick it to you, Neal, quickly. We're gonna go around the league a little bit, and we can obviously finish with the Heat later again. There's certain situations that have been going on that we have Nash firing, we have Primo being released, we have Udoka possibly being hired as the next head coach of the Nets. So I want to take your aspect, especially with the Primo, since you're over there in Texas. What is the vibe around there? What is the situation going on? Because there's no franchise that just releases a prime asset in a rookie scale contract unless it's something detrimental, something that's going to come out that was already an investigation. So what is your feel around the league right now? What's going on with these? It's always happened in sports, but now it seems to be magnified. Michael Bridges in Charlotte. You have the Udoka situation. You have the Primo situation. So what's your feel on that, Neal?
I think so. Just generally, the feel in San Antonio right now is that in order for the Spurs to do something like that, because say what you want about the Spurs, everybody knows that.
I'll stop moving, Jim. Sorry, Neal. I'll stop moving, Jim. I'll stop moving.
I'm one of the biggest Spurs haters there is, obviously, but I know that the Spurs organization is top notch. They usually. They don't make dumb decisions. They don't overreact to things. When people are panicking about their rosters, the Spurs will just make small changes and just figure it out because they've got a great front office and maybe the best coach of all time. For them to have released Primo the way they did, and now that we know what it was about, him exposing himself to fellow employees, female employees, I think there's going to be a lot more coming out about it too soon. I think we're going. I think they are keeping it close to the vest because there might be some sort of an investigation going on, a criminal investigation. And I think that in the coming days, we will get more information. And if you see, Josh Primo cleared waivers. So other teams are also kind of like, yeah, no, we're not going to touch this kid. To touch on the Nets situation, honestly, they have to be the most dysfunctional franchise I've probably ever seen, ever. I say that because, and to be honest with you, it's because of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is the cancer to that organization that they refuse to cut out. And he is just destroying them from within. I actually think Steve Nash should be counting his blessings. In fact, he probably wanted out, and that's why they said it was mutual. He should be counting his blessings because Ime Udoka may have succeeded in Boston, but he will not succeed in Brooklyn. Nobody can succeed there. And it's just because Kyrie Irving will make it impossible. The distraction that he brings with the anti-Semitism or the I'm stupid, but I think I'm smarter than you. Because that will destroy that team and is destroying that team. And the fact that the Nets are even hiring Ime Udoka after all of that also speaks to the lack of character and just the level of dysfunction that they have. So I don't know what Josiah is doing, and to be honest with you, it's kind of disappointing that the NBA is. I mean, I've listened to a lot of sports radio, and I think you guys would agree. This is Brooklyn Nets that we're talking about. They are in New York, right where the NBA is. I mean, you would imagine that the NBA would want to send a message by punishing that team because, it's right under their nose essentially, but nothing. I mean, they're doing absolutely – I think they forced Kyrie Irving and the Nets. Now they're voluntarily paying a $500,000 fine each. Or not a fine, sorry.
Donation. A donation.
A donation to the anti-hate league. But, I mean, are we serious? Like, that's what we're okay with? I mean, look at what the Miami Heat did with Myers Leonard when he went all anti-Semitic. We took care of that problem. And the NBA actually came out against Myers Leonard worse than they came out against Kyrie Irving, like way worse. Like Myers Leonard was suspended. I mean, and I even think he was fined. I have to go back and look at that. I'm just shocked of the league's mishandling of this net situation. And I don't know how they can look. I mean, it just seems so hypocritical because, if, it was any other player but a star player like Kyrie, this would have been handled way differently. And that's going to be a problem for the league. And then lastly, to just touch on, what's been happening recently with, Mikal Bridges, a domestic violence incident, Ime Udoka, sex assault incident, not sex assault, but power and control incident, involving, a higher level employee and a lower level employee female, and the power and control imbalance there is. And then this stuff with, Kyrie Irving. I don't know how many more of these the NBA can survive before, they start getting – I mean, I know they're getting hammered. They're getting panned in the media, sure. But Kyrie Irving is already somebody that people want to hate. Imagine it was, one of the faces of their franchise or of the NBA. That would be really bad. So hope the league gets a grip on it and soon because I'm not just hating on Brooklyn because I hate them. I'm just saying that it doesn't look good when a New York team has this much dysfunction and nothing's being done about it.
And Clutch, I'm gonna kick it out to you in a little bit, but I'm gonna follow back just quickly for that. One of the things that sticks out to me, Neal, when you mentioned is the fact that for some reason now, most of his career, and Bobby's made good points about this to me when we've talked privately, in regards to Kyrie, the person overshadowing always Kyrie, the player. and for some reason, Kyrie the person leaks onto the court, and it affects the team. Where it should be the Kyrie the person. I'm one of the. I respect people's opinions. I understand the political climate that we're living now, whether it's either you're on the left or you're on the right. And unfortunately, it leaks into sports and it leaks into medias and it leaks into opinions. I'm on the fan. I love the empowerment athletes have. You have a voice, you have a pedestal, you got to use it. But at this point, Kyrie is what you mentioned is basically ignorance is not an excuse. Like he knew, for example, the whole situation with a book or the movie that he was sharing or basically supporting. There's no way to excuse yourself and not being anti-Semitic. And then you double down on it. You really don't apologize. What the Nets do, obviously, for PR, they remove his media availability. They don't want him talking about it. You mentioned now he has to do a donation. The owners as well. And it seems to start on the top. It seems to always begin with leadership. And if you don't have strong leadership, it doesn't matter who you really, because the Nets right now are relevant because they signed Kevin Durant and they signed Kyrie and they traded for James Harden. Aside from that, the Nets are just developing. They had good core players, but the reason the Nets are now on the limelight is because you do acquire Kevin Durant and Kyrie. So you hit your wagon to them. Now you ride it out. When we saw this whole dysfunction, it was just a matter of time before either Steve Nash resigned or he got fired. Winning cures all. So I'm not saying if they were winning, this wouldn't be the situation. But there's things that there's dysfunctions, and I've had this argument before because we've talked about acquiring Kyrie, and I feel that our culture is strong, that it can handle any type of player, any sort of character flaws or issues. But there are certain points that now you start wondering, like in the NBA, who is really going to sign Kyrie next year? Like, are they going to offer him a max contract? Because I don't see him. I don't see him coming back with the next year. The owner seems to not want to have that issue. You got KD on the contract. You can build around him and Simmons unless you move him. But at that point, Kyrie the player becomes secondary to Kyrie the person. You don't want that situation anymore. And it's unfortunate that the NBA is, well, not unfortunate. It's just the NBA has to deal with it. And when you have, this is in the 80s and 90s when you can be influential as a player, but now you have the influence at your fingertips. You can literally change the course of your team, of your personal history with one click, one message, one act of violence. And I don't excuse it at all. But there seems to be a culture on the A where they need more psychological help. I don't know if every team does have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, but there seems to be the NBA needs to take that route towards mental health in some of these situations, like in the Primo. So you don't know, for example, if San Antonio was working with him, if he had his private doctors. Those are situations like that these guys are losing their careers over things that they can get help over. And you got Kyrie speaking his mind. But, I mean, you let the person talk, they're going to talk. So you let him do his things. Clutch, what do you feel in regards to Kyrie? I know we talked a lot about Kyrie acquiring him, the player, and we didn't want to acquire Kyrie, the person. We saw the situation with the Nets. What do you feel? For example, this season, is this season a wash for the Nets? Is there any coming back from them, even if they hire Udoka? That's another thing. They hire Udoka, the Celtics don't want anything back. That means basically like, here's our problem. Is your problem now? That's it. That's the first time I ever heard a coach under contract that there's no compensation going back in order to hire him away if he is hired, according to sources. How do you feel about the Nets season, Clutch?
Like, just from a basketball perspective, do you know how bad of an organization you have to be to have Kevin Durant and you suck? Like, you have Kevin Durant, you have Kyrie Irving, the basketball player, and you're terrible.
And terrible.
You're an awful team. You traded away James Harden, and when you had James Harden, you weren't even a very good team. You traded for Ben Simmons, who, I don't know, people want to make excuses for him, but he's just mentally shot. I think the Kardashian curse got to him because
a little late, but it got to him.
He can't do anything, right? Like
hey, Devin Booker seems to be playing fine, man. Devin Booker has the antidote for the Kardashian curse.
And like in regards to the Kyrie situation, I saw the post-game press conference where one of the reporters asked him, "Why are you promoting this Semitic film?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not promoting it. I'm just a guy." Well, no, guy, you're not just a guy. You're Kyrie Irving. You're somebody that kids look up to who want to have their handles just like Kyrie Irving. You're you're a big figure in sports. You're just by being a dynamic player, an incredible athlete. Your people are going to listen to you. People are going to pay attention. Young, impressionable kids are going to listen to you when you say stuff like that. And dude, he's just so ignorant and
I want
so
to say,
like,
I want to
yeah,
say
go ahead.
this about Kyrie because it's maddening to me. Because you're absolutely right about him. Okay, remember during the whole
The Kardashian kryptonite. That's a good one.
sit out because he didn't want to get the vaccine. Instead he's going to focus on social justice issues and be a voice. Okay, all right. So he sits out the whole year and he wants to use his platform to be a voice for the oppressed. Okay, all right. But then he gets to sit up there on the microphone and now he wants to just be a guy. The guy
Exactly.
the guy he it's so he only wants to be a guy when it's convenient to him.
Have it both ways.
The reporter said that tried to say because stupid people when they don't have a response, stupid people just shout you down. It's like, oh, just move on, let's move on. Like that's all he can say because he's an idiot, right?
Yeah.
But what the guy was saying is, dude, you have the right to say what you want. You have the freedom of speech. You do. But you don't have the right to avoid the consequences of your speech.
Exactly.
And he wants to avoid all of the consequences of his speech. He wants to get up there and say the earth's flat, but I'm the smartest dude in the world. No one can question me. And, oh, yeah, I put this thing on my Twitter, but that doesn't mean I'm promoting anything, even though when I do put social justice issues things, I am promoting, like the guy is an idiot and a fraud. And the one thing that pisses me off about the NBA, and this is, I'm going off right now, I know.
Go. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
About the NBA and it's really, honestly, not sports in general, but there are some people that should not be put in front of a microphone. I think that the NBA would be doing everybody a favor by prohibiting him from getting up there because I understand that reporters should have the right to be able to confront him with things he says, okay, and expose them because I do think that helps the public, but I also hate him getting up there and making everybody look stupid because whenever he gets up there, he makes the NBA look dumb. And he makes Americans look dumb. You know what I mean? Because people look overseas, they're like, oh my God, like that's the best America has to offer. The guy should not be forced to get up there in front of the microphone because the guy is he's lost. You're not getting through to him. You can't reason with people like that. And another thing, I was with you, Alex, on, maybe the Heat could rehabilitate him. We can't. He's lost. And honestly, because of his anti-Semitic comments, South Florida would be the worst place for him. Because
Mickey Harrison. Harrison's not going to acquire him.
In Miami with anti-Kyrie shirts and, all of that stuff. And they'd be right to do that. And I would actually applaud them if they did that. But I don't want to see that on our court because I don't want us to have a player that our South Floridians have to pay thousands of dollars to sit there and boycott, essentially, and protest against. I don't want a player on the court where that has to happen. And the Nets, you know what? My last point is this. There is no shame in this country anymore. There isn't. Because if there was, Kyrie Irving wouldn't be on the Nets. They have no shame whatsoever. It's sad to see. And I think that's a societal thing. I think for some reason, we as a society lost the ability to have shame. And I think sometimes it's okay to be ashamed of the things you do because when you do, you learn from them and you move on. When you can't have shame, you never grow. You never grow.
And before Clutch, I'll give it back to you. And one thing is what you mentioned is like the number one thing that I feel we've lost is accountability. And responsibility with accountability. Like you said, if you want to have a platform, use the platform. But you have to live with the repercussions of what you say or what you don't say. You can't just use your platform when it's convenient for you for your agenda, quote unquote, social justice, when as a society, we're not trying to be unjust. Well, I mean, maybe I speak for a few of us, but I feel that even the core groups of friends that I have, um, I respect your opinion. I respect your desire. You don't want to get vaccinated at the time? Don't get vaccinated. That's up to you. But just like if you have corporate laws or business entry, look, I got vaccinated to go to school. If you don't get vaccinated, you're not going to school. You can go to a private school, you can be homeschooled, but it's your choice. It was my parents' choice. No one's going to shame me for not doing it or for doing it. So we respect that. But now when you go into, unfortunately, it's turned into race, it's turned into religion, and people don't want to have it intertwined with sports. With a Kaepernick kneeling down situation, people blew that out of proportion as well and being disrespectful. I understand social justice and everybody has to be respected. And unfortunately, what drives our youth, what drives our lives is the intertwining of sports and art with reality, with everyday life. For some people, sports are a gateway. For some people, sports are a livelihood, a business. So we are it's in our best interest for everyone to feel safe, feel respected, understood, but not offended. People are getting offended way too easily nowadays. And I'm not trying to say that what Kyrie did, people shouldn't get offended. No, on the contrary. Kyrie's getting offended by people's reactions to what he said. You have to be accountable for what you said. Like, you have to understand that we are in this century and we are still talking about racial issues. We're still talking about religious issues. What have we learned? What have we learned through time? Sports itself. Look at our sports. NBA, National Basketball Association, European players are incrementing every year. What does that mean? We're a global game. It's just not United States basketball. It's a world's game. And that goes across all sports. It unites us. It could divide us, but you have to be accountable and responsible for what you say. Remember, my liberty ends where your liberty begins. But if I say something to you, Neal, if I say something to the world and you ask me, I have to respond. I can't just be, oh, Neal, no, you know what? We're going to move on. No, that's being a coward. If you're going to say your shit, back up your shit. If you make a mistake, say I'm sorry. I'm going to learn from it, which give credit to Myers Leonard. He did do that. And I believe he wasn't even suspended technically. He was removed from the team and traded and released. But he went out of his way to apologize personally. And actually, it's not a public apology. He actually was in the community centers. He was in the neighborhoods. And he started learning, educating himself. Even if it's PR, the action was still there. That was my spiel. Clutch, to your original point with the Nets, man. Hopefully Clutch didn't fall asleep. Godfather?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was entertained listening to this.
Go ahead, man. Give us your point.
Yeah. To just like not waste a lot more breath on that nut job. I wanted to go on to the Steve Nash firing and that subject. So like Steve Nash probably got lucky by parting ways. He's probably happier at home making TikToks with his daughters.
Dancing around.
He's probably better there because whatever's going on in Brooklyn is horrible. And for Kevin Durant, that guy to sit up on the podium and say, I was surprised that Steve Nash got fired.
Man.
I loved working with him. Bullshit. You hated the guy. You wanted him fired. You wanted to get traded because of him. Bullshit. Shut up. Like, I like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's a good player, but he can be so two-faced sometimes as a player.
Yeah.
As a guy that he says one thing, but it's really not true. Like, he had it happen in Golden State with Draymond, and now Steve Nash, and even the GM they have right now, I forgot his name, but
Sean Marks.
Sean Marks. He still has a problem with him. He wanted him fired, so who knows if he's next. But like, that situation in Brooklyn is so dysfunctional. It's not even funny. And then they trying to bring in another dysfunctional problem into the team with Ime Udoka, who's God knows what he did to get suspended for a whole year. God knows. We don't know the story. I don't know the story.
We don't know the story.
So God knows what he's on. And then kind of like that relates to the Primo situation. where one thing I don't understand about sports in general, why are athletes so horny nowadays? They're so fucking horny. It's Josh Primo exposing himself. Ime Udoka having relations with God knows who in the
Yeah,
association.
yeah.
In the NFL, you got Deshaun Watson and his massage therapist. Like, what? I don't know what's going on where you're a millionaire and you feel the need to like just do a bunch of sexual misconduct for what? For what? You're rich.
Psychologically, man, I don't know. And now you say it, I'll touch upon it. You, Neal. Neal's a lawyer, so Neal understands the legalities of these things. And I want to ask you, kind of what Clutch just mentioned. To me, I feel it's always gone on in sports per se. There's always been the empowerment of the person in charge or the player, and we glorify and we forget that they're humans too, and they might have issues. I'll never forget always with Michael Beasley, the Heat situation with Michael Beasley, great player. Because what I attested to, kind of like Delonte West, you've seen all the situation that Delonte West is going through. Multiple arrests, his life has been derailed. That's all psychological issues, things that could get fixed. That have they're treatable, and these are my things that at a certain point, athletes. I don't want to go with labels. I feel people a lot have label situations, and just to excuse it, but to remove accountability. I feel that this has always gone on. Social media and the climate that we're in has exposed a lot of more things. At times, there's been certain overreactions in the media, but these seem to be on point. The Primo situation, like I mentioned before, to me it was surprising because the Spurs outright released them. So that there's something else coming out. There's more details coming out that we still don't know. But do you feel, Neal, legally, NBA teams, professional teams are business entities. They make money, they generate money. They need to have human resources. They need to have obviously public relations. The level of the player affects also what is done. You can argue that if LeBron James is found out to have exposing himself like Primo did, the Lakers are not going to release him. Why? Because it's LeBron James. So unfortunately, that stigma still happens. It depends on who does it. It's not what is done, it's who does it. So we understand that part. Do you feel professional teams, in this case NBA teams, like business entities, can do more that you've witnessed where people are accountable, people have the help that they need, or at a certain point, like any other situation in life, they just cut bait. They're like, look, we've given you every resource available. You haven't fixed your issue. You haven't shown you want to fix your issue, and we need to cut bait with you. Do you feel there's anything else that we can do in this climate to actually help the players? Because I believe the players are empowered already. But is there something missing still? Or do we take it for granted, for example, being Heat fans, we have a model organization when we have the culture from the top that trickles down where it's about excellence, morale, it's doing the right thing. Do you feel there's anything else we can do or any other concept out of left field that can fix kind of quote these situations that are going on, Neal?
So what I think we're looking at, I'm a prosecutor, so
You're going after them.
I prosecute, people who are accused of crimes, and we have to prove they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But what typically, childhood traumas, okay, poverty, all right, how somebody has grown up, that has a lot to do with somebody's propensity to commit crime, because poverty in and of itself, like homelessness, it you develop mental health issues in poverty and in homelessness. You do, right? And what do we know about, generally most athletes come from very modest beginnings, okay? They don't come from two-parent households most of the time. They don't, they didn't get the best education at the high school level because, the parents are putting a lot of the resources for the child into the child's athletic ability and not necessarily into their education. So, they may be getting a great athletic education, but they're not really getting a good academic education. I think that a lot of these problems could be headed off at the college level, because here's the thing. One of the biggest things you've talked about is accountability, right? If you're a solid athlete and you know you're going to go to the NBA, and everybody else around you knows you're going to go to the NBA, everybody else insulates you from all of your problems because you're their ticket out, right? So anything that you do, it's going to be excused, okay? It's going to be covered up to an extent, right? You're in college, you've got NBA potential, right? And you're 18 years old, and you're seeing that there's really nothing you can do wrong. In fact, you're getting all of this attention for your athletic ability, and people are going to do whatever they can to make sure that you achieve that athletic goal, not just for your benefit, but for their benefit too.
Of course. And
so we're sure, we know how recruiting goes in college. There's under the table stuff, there's parties, there's tons of celebrations and things like that. Now there's name, image, and likeness deals, So by the time they get to the NBA, they're already God's gift, essentially, So I think in the case of Josh Primo, it's actually a really sad thing because you don't see kids that young getting into the NBA anymore, right? So, he just turned 19, and he probably has a very self-inflated idea of who he is, and he knows how much money he's going to be pulling in. He had just signed an extension, not too long before this incident happened. We don't really know when the incident happened, but let's assume it happened just before that, right? I think NBA teams and colleges, they should be trying to help these athletes not only with their athletic growth, but their economic growth and their maturation. I really do think they should be doing that because, look, they don't care if these kids are going to class or not, okay? And they're doing everything they can to make sure these kids are academically eligible, okay? I think they should be putting that same effort, which, to be honest with you, in some cases it's a lot to get these guys, because of all the, practices they've got to go to in the games. There's a lot of tutoring and things of that nature that they afford these athletes. They should be putting that effort into their personal growth as well, because it's not only just the criminal or the negative behavior that these athletes, who aren't given the maturity tools they need to really, grow and develop as human beings. It's not just those things that happen to these kids. Sometimes their NBA career is like 4 years, and they burned all the money that they've gotten, and then they become Delonte West, whose career was cut short because, for probably a multitude of reasons. And then he wasn't able to handle life on the outside because once that money stream was shut off, he didn't really have any skills to develop and to continue that. So I do think that teams have a responsibility, especially with young kids. One of the things that I've always I've always disagreed with kids being able to come right out of high school into the NBA. I never thought that was a good idea. And I understand, I know the positives of it. And I know that there are people who are like, hey, you know what? Don't stop them from making the money if they're good enough. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But maybe it should be a case-by-case basis thing. Maybe because I don't think –
That might get tricky. That might get tricky legally.
It could. Making that decision. But, and if the NBA wants to go down that route, which they're going to go down, they're going to get a lot more Josh Primos. They are, because here's the other problem is that, we saw with Aaron Hernandez at Florida, okay?
Yes.
These kids, when they go to the college programs, and they grew up in rough areas, all right, and they surrounded themselves with negative people, they don't just ditch those people because they're in the NBA or the NFL. And
people come with you.
come with you because they had your back. And that means a lot. You know what I mean? And so I think this is always going to be a problem in professional sports. And I think if you're an NBA team or an NFL team, you're going to want to make sure that you do your due diligence on the player and sniff out the character issues to the best of your ability. And I don't really put it on the Spurs because they have one of the best character, issue sniffing departments out there. I don't know how it happened, and we're going to find out, how long it had been going on. Did they have any idea? Who knows what their level of culpability is in this? Do I think NBA teams could do more? Yes. Do I think they're going to? Probably not. And even if they did do more, I don't know if it would fully solve the problem. Because, again, I think the beginning of the problem is just when you're – and I'm thinking this generally because not everybody who comes into the NBA and the NFL come from modest beginnings. But most of them do. And when you're dealing with people like that, there's a lot that comes with them. There's just a lot of trauma and things that they've experienced that money tends to exacerbate at times. Now, and I will end with this. I don't think exposing yourself is a mental health issue. I'm not going to say it is. I really don't think it is. I thought it was a cop-out by a 19-year-old, okay? And I don't think Deshaun Watson's thing is a mental health issue either.
No.
But the Delonte West thing happens a lot more than I think is publicized. And that's really sad.
And to piggyback off, their choices. A lot of people make choices. And then when they're caught, or when it's come to the limelight, it's an issue. Oh, I have a sickness. And like people always say, people are always sorry when they get caught. And I always find it to be, it's so funny to me that when you get caught doing something wrong, all of a sudden you're very apologetic. You're very remorseful. This doesn't reflect who I am. Yes, it does. It exactly reflects who the fuck you are. Anything you do when people are not watching is exactly who you truly are. And it bothers me so much that it becomes into like a PR situation. And dude, like he's 19. At 19, we all did stupid things. I didn't expose myself to people because I was taught. Obviously, you can't just do that. It's not in my nature, Like especially like Clutch says, is I don't understand this. To me, the whole situation with Deshaun Watson, and I'm not being superficial. I'm being truthful. You're a professional athlete. You're a multi-millionaire. You can go to any club in America and you can leave with 2 to 3 women if you want to, the right way. There's no necessity to do these things. It has to be a power move. It has to be an insecurity. I don't know what it is because I don't feel it. So I don't understand what they're going through. I don't understand what their thought process is. I just know my morale. I can't do that. I wasn't raised that way. I mean, even if I wasn't raised that way, I don't think I would do that. That's just not something that is natural to me. But first and foremost, let me also say, I know it's 43 minutes in. If you can please like, subscribe, all our listeners, I appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. It's always a pleasure. I got Clutch. I got with me Neal, one of the original goons. Before we go, I want to take a little trip around the NBA. Neal, you haven't been on since the NBA season started. So I do want to pay my dues and say everyone, when we did our pre-season preview of our standings and all that, we all took a step back when Neal stated that Utah was going to be 5th. We thought he wasn't aware of the trades. He was aware of some of the trades, and it seems to be that Neal Tradamus was right because Utah right now, I know it's early and things will average out, but the Jazz are in the thick of it. So I'm gonna go to you, Neal, but I'm gonna go Clutch if he's out there. I know he's there. I know he's listening. Based on the standings, we talked about it before. We took a little trip. We talked about some surprises that we've seen. Second week, third week. Do you see things averaging out? Clutch, is there anything you want to throw out there that you feel like a prediction of yours that any team might surprise us this week? Anybody moving to the top?
I think it's slowly starting to balance out a little bit, maybe. Not quite there yet. You still have some really good teams in the bottom of the standings. I don't know how much longer until it, but usually around the 20 game mark, that's when I think the league starts to balance itself out. And in surprise, I think I'm not sure of the record. I can't look it up right now, but the Pistons have been playing really good. Cade Cunningham in specific, he has been a really good player who seems like you can build around a guy like that. And they've made some moves. I think they got Bogdanovich, if I'm not mistaken, and he signed an
Yeah,
extension.
they got him. They got him. Yeah.
He signed an extension. That's a good guy to put around somebody like Cade. I think I like the Pistons. And the more I see it, the more I think they're gonna make a run towards the back half of the play-in tournament. That's like the biggest surprise. I mean, prediction for me.
For you, okay. I'm gonna say actually, Cavaliers to me, like I said, it's gonna average out. The dominance of the Bucks we saw coming, and one of my big surprises is how much they've improved defensively. They were already a decent defensive team. They're one of the best defensive teams, but even the opposition 3-point shooting is way down. So Giannis's defense to me is now even on another tier. So the fact that he continues to grow, Dallas, I picked Luka for MVP. I think they have a solid squad in the West. One of the things that surprised me, Memphis. Memphis has regressed a little bit, but still young. Warriors will even out. Will even out the Clippers. I'm gonna say one of my biggest surprises because I don't know how the situation with Kawhi is gonna play out. If he's having any regressions coming back from injury. I thought by now they were gonna be well centered top of the West. It's only 2 weeks in, so it might slowly come back. They might be bringing it back slowly. But I asked Neal, we already gave you your dues with the Jazz. Anything else that surprises you, Neal, or do you think everything is kind of leveling out as the season goes on?
I honestly think that Philadelphia has been kind of surprising. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You think Doc makes it? You think Doc makes it the whole season if they don't win?
No, I don't think so. I think he's been there too long, and if they just aren't even getting to the conference finals. You know what I mean? Like, he's been there so long, and they haven't even gotten there. You know, I mean that Toronto series and just that massive disappointment. You know,
Yeah,
like it hurts. You know, when that happens, and you just don't recover from that, and then you go out and you get PJ Tucker, and yet they're not even using him, like, you know, to his fullest potential. And then I don't know, James Harden. I mean, he's playing okay, but I mean, could you say it's dominant? No, I wouldn't say it's dominant. I mean, I think that has been a big surprise for me. I really thought that Philadelphia was going to play better early on. And yeah, no, and things could still even out. Maybe it'll be better, but that's been weird. Another thing that's been really shocking to me is just seeing how bad Anthony Davis has gotten.
Dude, I don't think he's fully healthy, man. I don't think he's fully healthy there.
You know what? I don't know if he's ever going to come back to that level. I don't think he can. You know, I see a player that's trying, but the injuries, it's just one of those careers that is just going to be hampered by injury and ultimately shortened. And then you are seeing the end of LeBron. I mean, like, not that he isn't playing at an all-time level. He's still really good, but that's not going to last. You know what I mean? Midway through the season, you're going to see him slow down, and that team is just going to nosedive. They're already nosediving, but I mean, it's going to be even worse. And honestly, I'm shocked that the Lakers organization has gotten to this point where where Jeannie's thinking of selling the team. I mean,
she's thinking of selling the team for real.
I heard a rumor that she was thinking of selling the team. You know, and I don't know how accurate that is. Yeah. But like, you know, you've got those stalwart franchises, those big market teams that, you know, you expect to be in the mix or be relevant, and they're just not relevant. And then you've got a team like the Bucks that is looking like one of the best teams I've ever seen.
I just don't understand. I don't understand. And now that you mentioned that, and Clutch, I'm going to bring you here too, so you can give me your opinion on this. I don't understand because I understood the situation with Kobe, where you give him the Kobe deal and kind of his farewell tour because you were rebuilding. You had a young nucleus coming up, so I understood that part. You knew Kobe wasn't going to take you anywhere. You could do the farewell tour, perfect. But I don't understand how, and we can follow up this probably another week. You have probably mismanaged good 3 to 4 LeBron years, aside from the bubble when they win the championship. And still, to me, if we're a healthy team coming into that championship, I think we would have taken that series. That's just me. But they had a good nucleus that year. I'm not going to lie. They had a good nucleus. I just don't understand how the blueprint is there, how to play with LeBron. The nucleus is there, how to build a team around LeBron. And you have, for 2 consecutive years, you've butchered possibilities to improve your team. It's like a self-sabotage. I just don't understand. It's funny. We're like, do you understand the magnitude of this as Heat fans? Heat Twitter. We are arguing because Spo's rotations 2 weekends to the season. We don't understand why he doesn't sub this and that. The Lakers have had 2 years to build a team around LeBron and maximize who LeBron is at this age. Honestly, at this age, LeBron is a point power forward. He's not as quick as he was. He still has amazing court vision, a better shooter, a better pull-up shooter, decent rebounder, and he's still LeBron James. How do you go 2 years? If you're a Lakers fan, and I know a few, and they're really frustrated from the moment they traded for Westbrook, that was the number one topic of concern. But how do you go 2 years and you continue down the same route? Rob Pelinka gets an extension. How does this continue to happen when you have, like, the NBA is up? Look at the Orlando Magic, guys. They started the other day Bol at point guard. Bol is 7'1". Like, the NBA is transitioning once again. It's not small anymore. It's long athletes, it's freak athletes that play 1 through 5 that are versatile. I don't understand how this continues to go on. And Clutch, from afar, you're right now, we saw LeBron in his prime. We always judge it. I think we have the benefit of judging things to our organization, being the Heat, where we're stable. We have, and even we have holes, but we have the constant improvements year to year to year. And you see the evolution of basketball. You evolve with the times. I just want an opinion, just from a fan, from us. What do you feel? What do you feel the Lakers even see in LeBron at this point? Like, what do you do? Are you already in the wagon? You traded all your picks because now, don't quote me on this, but LeBron has to approve all of these deals. He's a de facto GM. So I'm not even going to blame the Lakers. I'm honestly looking at LeBron and just blaming LeBron. You allowed all this shit to happen. So, like, is that why he's not saying anything? Because he's going to get called out? Because I've seen LeBron's not been vocal about it. How do you feel that situation even plays out? I'll ask that question. Do they trade Westbrook? Do they ride out the season? Do they tank and let the Pelicans get their picks? Because they don't even have control of their future. What do you do?
Right. So, like, the thing with LeBron is, like, if you've noticed this pattern, he goes to a new team and immediately wins. But then you let him sink his teeth into that team, and it starts getting worse and worse and worse as he becomes the general manager of that team. No move gets done without his say-so. Happens in every single team except the Miami Heat. Because the people in charge, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, are not the type to get pushed around by anybody, even the best player in the world. So it worked. It worked where LeBron, when you take away that GM responsibility that he feels he needs to have, when you take that away, he's a great player. Just put him next to other people that complement his skill set. Put him next to shooters. That's the formula. You always put LeBron with shooters, and they dominate. If the Lakers would have done this trade for Miles Turner, who's a good shooter, and Buddy Hield, who's a really good shooter, LeBron, they'd be in the thick of things. They'd be in the playoffs instead of trying to get Westbrook, who doesn't fit. He's not a shooter. He can't play next to LeBron because they both want to dish the ball and play point guard, be the floor general. It doesn't work. And you as the Lakers, you cashed in all of your assets to get Anthony Davis. You won your championship. Congratulations. But you cashed in to get Anthony Davis to be LeBron's successor, to be the future of the franchise for years to come. I don't even know if at this point, like, Anthony Davis might be done at the same time LeBron is, because just how bad the injuries get, and you never know with him when he's going to be available and where he's not. So you're in a really bad spot where you have a terrible Westbrook contract, you have a injury riddled Anthony Davis, and you have LeBron. He's still putting up numbers, but there used to be a time when LeBron used to put up numbers and you could put him with 16 15 other scrubs and you'd still make the playoffs. And now he's putting up the numbers, but he's not winning anymore.
Yeah.
And those numbers don't make a big of an impact as they used to. And that's where the regression comes in. So the Lakers,
they're empty numbers.
They're stuck. The Lakers are stuck. They have no direction right now. And
Yeah,
I don't see a path they could get out of this. So it's just for them probably just be waiting it out till LeBron retires and try to rebuild from there. But as first they got to figure out this Westbrook thing because it doesn't work. It does not work.
Next offseason,
would be better off trading LeBron at this point. I mean, I would trade LeBron, try to get some picks. Just try to have a future because the longer you hold on to this, then it's not that you're not only delaying your rebuild, but you're doing it exponentially because if you keep missing on generational talents that come out in the drafts that could catapult you to large windows, then when you finally do have picks, you might not be getting those picks in good drafts because NBA drafts they're not like NFL drafts. It's like every 2 or 3 drafts you can find someone in there, that's generational, that's going to be there. And sometimes it's even longer. Remember that one draft we got Michael Beasley? Derrick Rose was probably the best player in that draft. And look what happened. It's you've got Wembanyama in this draft, but you're not going to find another one of those dudes. And the Lakers could trade LeBron, trade AD, get picks, and maybe be in the mix for him, and then just, boom, make it happen again. I don't know, but they're probably going to be too proud to do that. Doubt that's going to
happen. And the thing is, when you mentioned that, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but when they traded Lonzo Ball, Ingram, and all that, they traded all those people. They traded all their core, really, with LeBron for AD. The first time, which that's the part that I do not understand. When they did that, they didn't trade Kuzma. They still had, they signed, oh my God, they had, Jesus Christ, the one that was on house arrest. Shit, I forgot his name. Caldwell Pope. They had a shooter. They signed Rajon Rondo on their point. So they build around him solidly. They did it one time. I don't understand what's the situation that now you can't do it. And like you said, LeBron's prime is behind them. LeBron at this point has to be your best complementary player. And AD has regressed in 2 years, possibly due to injuries, most likely all due to injuries, but he doesn't even look like a franchise player anymore. Like, it's not like AD doesn't carry the same weight. He's still putting up numbers, which is crazy to me. He's still averaging 25, I think like 9 or 10 rebounds. So he's still a solid player, but it doesn't jump out at you anymore. Like, it doesn't scare you. And surprisingly, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They just can't shoot. They can't score. And I give credit to this. Westbrook has changed his tone a little bit. And Darvin Ham, he actually played him off the bench, which I think they should have done since last year. When you have Westbrook and LeBron at the same time on the court, they X each other out. They're the same player, basically. They need the ball in their hands. Have Westbrook run your second unit. Do that. Maybe that's an option. Next year, the only thing that's on their side is that next year, I believe, under contract, they're only going to have LeBron and Anthony Davis because Westbrook contract's off the books. I think Beverly signed an extension with Minnesota. He might have another year. I don't know if it's a team option, a player option, but they have some cap space to sign. Now you go get Kyrie. I don't think people want Kyrie in LA either. So you're just like, the reason I'm talking about this is because I think us as Heat fans, there's a lot of Heat fans that have taken our organization for granted. Like, we're expected to always do these things. Across the NBA, you can count them with one hand, actual stable organizations that win throughout time. Heat being one, Spurs being one. There's a period of resetting, and even in Miami, we've done it 3, 4, 5 times where we reset the franchise, but we haven't fallen off the face of the earth. And there's situations that people take for granted. There's management teams that people take for granted, and they pay for it in the long term. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll say, Neal, hey, whenever you want, original goon, always in our hearts. You're always welcome to come back. Anytime you're free, you can jump on with me and Clutch. I'll ask you for one thing. Final prediction. I see the rotations. I see the possibilities. Jimmy's not playing today. How do you feel is going to progress our Heat season?
I think our Heat season is going to progress as we get healthier. I think that I think Tyler Hero should come off the bench again.
Oh,
I don't like Tyler Hero in our starting lineup. I don't think the team plays well when he's there. And one thing that that you said that really made a lot of sense to me was Caleb Martin doesn't really fit in the starting lineup either. I think Spo is starting to trust Max Strus a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Max Strus maybe he's already taking over the late game role. Especially we saw that in the last game where they played Max over Caleb. Maybe that happens with the starting lineup and we see something there. But there's some tweaking that still needs to be done. But overall, I like the players on the team. I still think this is a very competitive team. And if we can get Oladipo back, I still like our chances at, contender status.
Yeah, and Oladipo's situation is tricky. I
It's
don't.
heartbreaking because we all talked about it in the beginning.
Oladipo
was the key. He was going to be not only the PJ Tucker replacement, but he was going to really help with that offense and the defense and our not only late game lineups, but potentially maybe eventually in the starting lineup. But it's really sad to see that. It's really sad to see that.
I don't mind. I think Tyler, he's going to remain the starter. They're not going to move back to the bench. I know they're figuring out.
He'd request a trade if they did that to him. So he's going to be a starter.
It won't go that far, but I know Lowry. They're going to get Lowry to adjust more, play more off the ball. But I do believe there's a fix there in the starting unit. I've always thrown starting Jovic. But Jovic is not going to play right now. Obviously, they're going to stash him. He might, buried any injury, he might come in. I think he's a perfect fit, slid in just into the 4 position. But I do think, just me, coaching perspective, I really like the fit of Jimmy playing the 4. I know he doesn't like starting at the 4. He plays the 4 throughout the game. And I just believe it unlocks so many things. And then it all comes down to, the reason people care about starting is how you start your game. It's just not the epitome, I'm a starter. I'm an NBA starter. It's not about that. And the team concept is how you start your game. Because you can have games. NBA is a game of runs. NBA momentum changes in a second. It could be a 6-point swing play in less than 10 seconds, an 8-point swing play. So momentums change. It's how you carry it on, how do you kickstart it. But season is still early. We're still going through our rotation. So please, Heat Twitter, you're hearing me. Don't panic. Don't overreact. Don't tweet everything you think every single time. I know I'm guilty sometimes, so I'll monitor myself. Just enjoy basketball. Enjoy basketball. And the progressions will come. So with that night, Clutch, anything you want to add, buddy?
No, man. Just remember, for all you Duncan Robinson fans out there, 33-point as of right now, 33 pointers away from breaking the Heat all-time record.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Woo! Are we? I didn't even check the game. Are we winning right now?
No, we're down 2.
We're down 2? Kyle Lowry stepped up?
He's got like 19.
19? Third quarter?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. Hey, that's all you need from Kyle. Once in a while.
I think we're gonna win. So, and Lowry has been scoring the ball this game, which has been impressive.
Man, with Lowry, one of the things that people talk about, you're not getting 20-point scores. You're not. Lowry is your floor manager. He keeps you poised. He keeps you in balance. He gives you that defense. Once in a while, he will give you those 15, 20-point games if needed. But all we need Lowry to do, move off the ball, keep your shooting, keep dishing, obviously be in front of the ball, and stay fit. That's it. That's all we need Lowry. People talk so much about, he has $30 million guaranteed. If Lowry plays his role, we'll be just fine. Because Vincent, when Vincent comes in, you just see the changes. The dynamic in that team changes so much defensively. So, Oh man, but it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna still firm. I still got Heat finishing second. It's early, but no team really scares me in the East. Celtics are strong. Bucks are strong. Cavaliers are surprising, but it's still early. Let's have some fun. Let's get some games on our belts, and let's just keep winning. Let's get a winning streak, and let's just propel us to the next one. All right, Heat Nation, it's always been fun. Every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Fast break, catch us. A big thank you to Neal. Much love, my man. Clutch like always. I'll see you next week. Miami, be safe, be smart, and be accountable. Much love, Heat Nation. Technical difficulties. Still technical difficulties.